Hello again. I just wanted to update you on the scale of the evil and depravity that rests within the social services model of in the UK of trading children with private equity owned institutions, which has the complicity of the family courts in many cases. And in connection to our own daughter in previous videos, I identified how my wife and I have been punished for reminding our younger daughter that she's a Polish citizen and she should be proud of her heritage and continue trying to learn the language and embracing the culture, and reminding her that she's a Polish citizen and has access to the Polish consulate. And after that, we received a quite an intimidating email from Deirdre Ryan of South Tyneside Council, and I pasted that into previous videos so you can look at it. And it essentially, the content of it is clearly illegal, but it outlines this business model that I've identified, where children are subject to incredible psychological abuse by social services to emotionally sterilize them, to package them up as cash generative assets to be traded with private equity. So as a result, what she did with the backing of their legal team at South Tyneside was to break our daughter's heart, really, and say that she couldn't receive her birthday presents at the birthday meeting, that they'd already downgraded to a level where we had to go to a Premier Inn and have a breakfast to even exchange cards, and we were allowed to exchange cards, but we couldn't exchange presents. Essentially, she was terrorizing and emotionally torturing a child, and also adults as well, to hide the level of corruption that they've engaged in eradicating her Polish culture to make her fit this wicked trading model. It can be described as nothing other than cultural genocide, and they're trying to cover it by, in essence, saying that she doesn't want her Polish heritage because that's the only out they have. But nobody is allowed to verify that who would be considered independent. They've ignored friendly correspondence from the Polish consulate. They've refused to answer why she lost interest in the Polish heritage the moment they took her from us in December 2021. Even though Ryan and, you have to laugh at this, unfortunately, independent reviewing officer Lewis Anderson said that they would write to us and explain why that happened. They were prevented by their legal team, we know that. We have no explanation for that. The level of racism has always been there. The very first meeting, I've posted in an extract from the first, what they call contract of expectations we had, when we were intimidated. Her mother in particular was intimidated into not using Polish 3 weeks after she'd been taken, not seen her for 3 weeks, and blackmailed that Polish language was outlawed at that meeting. That was a letter given to us by Laura Skelton, but it came out of South Tyneside Legal Department. So clear acts of racism. This, of course, was facilitated by Rachel Hudson, family court judge, who accepted falsified and unsigned statements, evidence. In particular, what they call the ABE was a statement which was falsified. On the case channel, I'm taking you through the journey of how they falsified that, how the allegations evolved upon challenge to become almost ridiculous. It's a mere piece of narrative, not evidence. Unsigned by our older daughter, Rachel Hudson had 2 weeks before the final hearing and 6 weeks of deliberations afterwards to ask for a signed copy, but she knew it was falsified, so it never was going to be produced in a signed format. And we've since met our older daughter at a meeting of her own request, and she claims to have never seen the statement. This follows a falsified letter from our younger daughter claiming to want to stay with her foster carer. It was unsigned, strewn with language from social worker Donna Grant, so unsigned by our daughter, who is an articulate young girl who was more than capable of writing in her own hand and signing a letter. This also follows falsified evidence put forward by Donna Grant with the complicity of the legal department, saying younger daughter had said to her she wanted to stay. Then 2 weeks after, she says to her child guardian that she wanted to return home. And then miraculously, in the days before the final hearing, she changed her mind. So imagine the emotional and psychological torture they put her under. And it gets worse, actually, because now, because at our last meeting we defied these illegal parameters that are articulated in Deirdre Ryan's letter and posted into a previous video. We defied them. And we told our younger daughter the level of abuse and bullying that we've received. And I've received police state terror as well. We didn't tell her that, but we tell her the scale of abuse that we received. And regarding the police state terror, please do look at the earlier emails where Northumbria police were weaponised. They'd entered my property, stole devices, physically and psychologically abused me on a pretext that I'd spray painted a car of Rachel Hudson on 2 occasions, they alleged. And then in my interview, it was put to me, they tried to force me to confess that after receiving an email 2 months after the last alleged act of vandalism, I somehow jumped in a time machine and went back and vandalised her car. So they knew upon entering this property that they were doing so on a false pretext. And they used it to terrorise my wife. I'd been removed from the property, cuffed, couldn't even put on my shoes. I was assaulted in the back of the car by Adam Lloyd because he knew that he'd let slip some information. I was already on to what they were doing. I was worried that they were terrorising my wife, which they did. They won't release the body cam data. They know it will be very, very bad for them because my wife was told it's nothing to do with spray paint. Then another person said it was, and they were searching, turning over my house for something that they knew that I didn't do. They say that I've harassed Rachel Hudson. I've not harassed her. I've told her we're going to hold her to account. That is going to happen because there are other children that have suffered as well, not just from her, but right the way across the United Kingdom. So in this meeting, we told our daughter the level of abuse and bullying that we receive from South Tyneside Council. And we want her to come home, and she must speak up herself because we know she wants to come home. She's written coded messages to us in Christmas cards and things like that. She counts down the meetings, the time to the meetings. And they tell her she doesn't want to see us more often. They've also let slip that even if she did want to see us, they wouldn't allow it. So this is the cruelty of this system in the United Kingdom, the cruelty of it. So she went away, she met her older sister, and she started to say she wanted to come home. And she was very unhappy about things, about her heritage, and she wanted to come home. And let me tell you what they've done to her now. They've taken her from a previous placement, and we're told that she's now somewhere near Durham. We're not allowed to see her. And she's somewhere near Durham. So she was uprooted because she started to have the courage to express herself, just as she tried to during the process of which they took her from us and traded her with private equity. During the case, She hung in there right to the last moment and said she wanted to come home. They tell us that they listen to the child. They do not listen to the child. They listen to the child to the point that the child tells them what they want, and they will terrorize the child, bully the child into changing their mind. If they can't do that, they will just falsify evidence. Rachel Hudson knew all of this. And both South Tyneside Council and Rachel Hudson should already be under serious investigation. But you can see the scale of corruption in the UK, that this has not happened. Instead, they've weaponized Northumbria Police against my wife and I. So our younger daughter has been terrorized, taken away. Instead of playing with her friends, which she's not really allowed friends, instead of a normal child being with her parents, playing with her friends, visiting places in the school holiday, she was uprooted and taken to a strange family in Durham to hide corruption. You can see the cruelty. Adults, these are adults terrorizing children to hide their own corruption. We're beginning to see in Britain now the scale of corruption. The Epstein files have given us a window of how deeply corrupt Britain is, leading right the way up into the heart of the royal family and the top level of government in the UK. We are invited to believe that Charles and Elizabeth didn't know about Andrew's conduct. I posted on the previous video reprehensible behaviour by Sarah Ferguson and Andrew relating to the fake shake and the suspicious London property transaction with a Kazakh businessman. They should have been investigated. The royal family knew, Elizabeth and Charles knew about Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. They were complicit in it in a passive way, covering it. You can see that now. And in government, look, Keir Starmer knew about Mandelson. There was enough there already. And look at the emails between Wes Streeting and Mandelson. I told you in a previous video that Streeting was a private equity frontman to open a door for private equity to effectively scythe out large parts of the NHS without really the public knowing. Look at the emails between Mandelson and Streeting. Interesting tech companies to see and things like that. Look at the relationship between Mandelson and Starmer and Palantir. In terms of this defence contract, it's rotten to the core, and when people start to expose it and talk about it, they're terrorised. That is police state Britain. Take care. Bye.